The why of COVID-19. COVID-19 Jigsaw revealed. Important. There is no more important video that I, or maybe even anyone else, has made. Get it out there. This is quite simply the most important moment of your life, if you value the right to decide your own life. If you'd rather the government told you what to do, then I guess it doesn't matter. But if that's true, it rather exposes the sham of democracy, because if democracy is people voting for what the politicians want them to vote for, then it's not our choice of government, but the government's choice of government, which rather says it all. A chosen few choosing for you. And because there are more of them, the sheeple, than us, the free willers, so dying to type free willies, there is no democracy, just a tug of war between the government's preferred, not entirely socialist candidate and the government's preferred, not entirely capitalist candidate. It's not entirely a great choice, is it? So do whatever it takes to finish this video. Get popcorn, throw tennis balls at the wall, watch 30 seconds at a time. But the moment you walk away from this, you give up on a free society. That's your right as a human being. Just so we're entirely clear, watch and call me an idiot later. I honor you. Watch and thank me later. I am grateful to you. Fail to watch the entire video and I have no time for you. I'm trying to save 3 beloved countries, the UK, the US and Canada, with friends in each and by extension every free and enslaved people in the world. If you have a problem with that, it's not my problem, except it is. It's a matrix moment. Most are not ready to be freed, but we're out of time. So this is an emergency wake-up call. Everyone, from this moment, is either an enemy of freedom or an ally of freedom. There is no middle ground. They won't give us that option. So decide and don't bother trolling. I don't have time for people who think that enslaving people, controlling people, depriving people of their freedom, depriving them of their livelihoods is a good idea. I have even less time for them when it's based on a lie. No time at all when it's all for greed, for the same old people. So stay the course and watch this video as a free human, or leave, at which point I really don't care what you think, what you say, what you do. It's as simple and as harsh as that. Not my preferred choice, but a choice forced upon me. The very fear and emotion that you're feeling at the news is precisely why you should do whatever it takes to watch this video to completion, just this one video. There are many people grappling with the facts and trying to make sense of the virus and the government's response to it. For many of us, including many of our viewers, the question that eluded answer was why. We've demonstrated the fraudulent nature of the science behind the government's response. We've demonstrated the fraudulent nature of at least the Western version of lockdown. And we have, thank God, an expert epidemiologist who backs our data-driven observations implicitly. Save us, only one Wittkowski, you're our only hope. I wonder if he means old Knut Wittkowski, 20 years at the Rockefeller University, head of Department of Biostatistics Epidemiology. Virus statistics. He knows this stuff. His response to the virus? As with every respiratory disease, we should protect the elderly and fragile, because when they get pneumonia, they have a high risk of dying of the pneumonia. So that is one of the key issues that we should keep in mind. On the other hand, children do very well with these diseases. They're evolutionarily designed to be exposed to all sorts of viruses during their lifetime, and so they should keep going to school and infecting each other. Then that contributes to herd immunity, which means after about 4 weeks at the most, the elderly people could start joining their families because then the virus would have been extinguished. With all respiratory diseases, the only thing that stops the diseases is herd immunity. About 80% of the people need to have had contact with the virus, and the majority of them won't even have recognized that they were infected, or they had very, very mild symptoms, especially if they're children. So it's very important to keep the schools open and kids mingling to spread the virus to get herd immunity as fast as possible. And then the elderly people who should be separated in the nursing home should be closed during that time, can come back and meet their children and grandchildren after about 4 weeks when the virus has been exterminated. Well, what people are trying to do is flatten the curve. I don't really know why, but what happens if you flatten the curve? You also prolong it, and it takes more time. I don't see a good reason for a respiratory disease to stay in the population longer than necessary. So in a nutshell, carry on as normal, put OAPs in homes and keep them separate, important to keep children at school to spread the virus, 4 weeks and it's over, herd immunity achieved. No good reason to flatten the curve, it prolongs the situation and delays herd immunity. How are governments responding to Knut's measures? Carry on as normal. Lockdown, emergency measures, social distancing. Put OAPs in homes and keep them separate. No particular emphasis on protecting old people. Important to keep children at school to spread the virus. Schools closes, stay at home, home education. 4 weeks and it's over, herd immunity achieved. 7 weeks since 21st February and US and UK first cases. No good reason to flatten the curve. Relentless emphasis on social distancing and flattening the curve. It prolongs the situation and delays herd immunity. So in a nutshell, carry on as normal, put OAPs in homes and keep them separate, important to keep children at school to spread the virus, 4 weeks and it's over, herd immunity achieved, no good reason to flatten the curve, it prolongs the situation and delays herd immunity. That's how it should have been done. Why on earth would the government want to do, indeed go to extreme lengths to do, precisely the opposite of what a knowledgeable and truly expert epidemiologist would advise? It makes no sense. Without the final piece of the puzzle, it is bizarre. Look at the comments on the videos. But why? And I had no better answer than anyone else. So Gates is off doing his thing, so what? Once people realise it's nonsense, we get the pitchforks, it's all over. The government is killing the economy, but why? It's painful, but their salaries aren't based on financial performance or lack thereof, so why? The government deliberately created fear. They created a falsified WMD-style dodgy report. That's premeditated. It got us into lockdown. So what? They weren't showers, but they could have been. The sheeple would have walked into them. Lockdown, pointless exercise of control, no impact in limiting extent, level of degrees, our charts. Unless they're getting off on proving they can control us, it makes no sense, until it all makes sense in one horrifying revelation. We need to step back. You need to be able to see what you already know from a different perspective, that of the overlord. I typed overload, and that's precisely what this is about. But first we have to deal with reality. Forget politics. This isn't about them Democrats and us Republicans and vice versa. It's about them who designed this and who did this to us, the people. In Brexit, mine workers and communists were my friends, and the elite and public UK private, school and finance were my enemies. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I'm sorry, the military have not acted against the people, but they're there, available. The police have acted against the people. The governors and politicians have acted against the people. The courts are there to enforce the law against the people. Anyone not in uniform or a position of authority is my friend. Anyone in uniform or a position of authority is my enemy. As of today, it's as simple as that. So listen, as my friend, and yes, as my enemy too. You, my enemy, have declared war on my people, all people, so I declare war on you. I have no army. I have no power. I have only a message. It is the people who can walk to their capital and remove Every politician from power, without exception. Might some of you die and I will be with you? Yes. But you have to decide. Worst case, entire depopulation of Earth. Best case, a few people die. It's your call. I would rather live a short life and die as a free man than live a long life as a slave. I would rather live a short life and die as a free man than live a long life as a slave under Bihari's administration, FFK. I'd rather be a free man in my grave than to live life as a puppet or a slave, Jimmy Cliff. I would rather die as a free man in Oduduwa Republic than live as a slave in Nigeria, Fani Kayode. It's better to die free than live as a slave. F. Douglas. I made my choice. I know that the person who first stands up will be a target. I'm standing. Will you stand with me, against me, or after me? It's your call. Freedom or servitude. It's a simple choice. But before you decide, if you have not already, you need to see the totality of this jigsaw, this construct that is so simple, so elegant, that I am in awe of it. It is also the darkest, most abhorrent moment in our Earth's history, and most people think it is for their own good that the government is saving them. It isn't saving them, it's milking them. It's the same old game with a horrible twist. The people who stand to gain from this are going to rake in billions, trillions even. But with the emergency measures being enacted, they may get one world government thrown in for free. Let's deal with reality while we still have that chance. Let's look at what's really happening. You know it is. It's in the news every day. It's not fake news except from the government. It's not theory, it's their media telling us it's fact. And it's not a conspiracy, it's out in the open, right in our faces, finally revealed by a simple and polite offer I saw last night. The Bank of England says it will temporarily lend to the government if needed during the COVID-19 pandemic. How sweet! A loan just to tide us over. And look what's right next to it. Government says it's too early to lift the lockdown, telling the public, we're not done yet. No, indeed you're not. But it's got nothing to do with saving us from the virus. So decide. Keep watching this video 30 seconds at a time if you just can't stomach it, but get through it. I'm not getting paid for you watching. They won't give you a second chance. There are 4 classes of people in each modern society, excluding those who will enter the scene only in its final moments, and even then, not by choice. They are the ones who remain in the shadows while their lieutenants, maybe captain at best, like Gates, speak out. You already know who they are, many of you, and I hoped not to even mention their name, but they revealed themselves and the entire game fell into place. Maybe you've already seen it. Probably before the end you will see it. For many it will be too absurd, yet you read every jigsaw piece in the news and to you it is fact. The picture that emerges is likewise simple fact, and you will only have to ask one question: who owns the central banks? But to defeat this, you don't even need to do that. To defeat this, you only have to say no and take action. You only have to walk, thousands of you, millions of you, to your regional offices and councils and start there, removing the limbs of government one by one until, like Hitler in Downfall, there is no one for Washington or London or Ottawa to give orders to. It's as simple as that. You walk, they lose. Take them out, literally, out of their offices, out of their uniforms, out of their suits, out of your lives. Game of Thrones gave you the role model. Don't make the mistake of thinking of it as penance. Exile them. Send them to Africa to save lives. Never leave toxic residue behind. It just starts again. And when you've done your local village or town, go to your cities and take them out. And when you've been taken them out of your cities, go to your capital and take them out. And how long before the military finally do get involved and you find out if those loyal sons and daughters of yours are loyal to you or loyal to your enemy? Will some or a lot of us die? Almost certainly, if we act. But I was raised on Britain's dying again and again to remain a free people. America boasts of its role in saving Europe in World War II, because they died, your parents and grandparents. Canada, the same. So, are you worthy descendants, or are you snowflakes melting away in the slightest warmth? I would never have believed that 66 million Britons would walk meekly into their homes, but they did. Only 4 years earlier, 17 million Britons voted for freedom. 4 years later, we walked into our homes without a peep. Decide, but learn first why your decision is so critical. Let us do what you will hate, most of you, but do what I and so many others know how to do. Let us look at how your society works in terms of numbers, in terms of money, because this is all about money. Knut Wittkowski told us the sensible thing to do. Carry on as normal, put OAPs in homes and keep them separate. Important to keep children at school to spread the virus. 4 weeks and it's over. Herd immunity achieved. No good reason to flatten the curve. It prolongs the situation and delays herd immunity. The government did exactly the opposite, because guess what? It prolongs the situation and delays herd immunity. It's not a coincidence when you follow the money. So bear with me. I care enough about you to put myself out there as the first or one of the first. Care enough about yourself to put your emotions and dogma to one side and understand what you're seeing, even if you don't like it and want to hide away or scream. It's actually simple, very simple. You'll be able to self-identify as one of those 4 categories very easily, and no judgment is implied regardless. So please suspend your own and your hate and your own agenda until we're all finally free. Then you can do whatever you like, naturally. You'll be free. Who's clapped for the NHS, for the health workers? Put your hand up. Oh, sorry, you were still clapping. By the end of this, you'll realize who you are really applauding, and I hope you'll never clap again. Not for this, anyway. Notice, by the way, how every meme, every initiative plays into the bigger picture. It is breathtaking, the sophistication of this global pandemic. Not the virus, but the pandemic of deliberate, premeditated fear generation and response. Oldest game in the world, Hegelian dialectic, whatever it's called. Problem, response, solution. Wake up, sheeple. So sure, whose clap has a relative in the NHS? My wife in my case, yeah, not expecting that perhaps. Know someone in the US, in Canada in healthcare? In the UK, the NHS specifically is a public sector institution. What other public sector institutions are there in our societies? A public sector institution is one where the employees are paid by the state and the authority is vested in the state in one form or another. And fine, federal, whatever. It's the state. So suggestions. Army, police, justice, State Department. Social security, transportation, customs, Congress, Parliament, spooks, special forces, healthcare, tax collectors. There's a lot of them, isn't there? And who works for public sector institutions? Government-paid public sector worker taxpayers. And who pays the government-paid public sector worker taxpayers? The government. Who else is there? How about private corporations who are paid by the government? Any examples spring to mind? Military-industrial complex, NHS private sector initiative, consultants, political consultants, Mercs, private military companies. You better hope your buddy is more loyal to you than the government or a paycheck. I have one in my building, great guy. He's on contract to the UK government right now. Yep, I feel safe, but no, I don't fear him. I just have no idea if it will be him, because what is he? Government-paid private sector worker taxpayer. So he works for a government-paid corporation, and who pays the government-paid private sector worker taxpayer? Government. And of course, what else is there? Who else is there? I haven't forgotten the poor, the needy, the stay-at-home who need our support, and I'm not complaining, I'm trying to free you. Congratulations, you are being rescued. Please do not resist. Rogue One. So there are the public sector institutions who pay the non-work related benefit receiver with money from the government. Warning, if you move, your life is over. Not because of me, but because of them. Your life as a free human being, that is. Look at all that love showered on you by a government that just wants you to be safe. That is so sweet. It's so much love, why not double it, treble? It's worth it. If we didn't have the virus, it would be business as usual. The government's failing the NHS. Sorry, one sec, somebody's raising his hands. Who are you expecting to pay for it? The government, as we showed you. And who pays that money to the government? Do not use this as an excuse to leave or troll. I'm trying to save you, just hold it in for one brief moment. So who does pay for government? That would be private sector corporations a bit, and massively the non-government private sector worker taxpayer. Will make your society fair later. Right now, your neighbour or commie or whatever, because they vote for the other party, is your ally. They are not in uniform, they are not in authority over you. Get over it just for now. So, everybody else gets paid by the government, private sector, we pay for the government. Yes, as a government employee, you pay taxes, giving some of the government money back that they gave you. Yes, you spend it in restaurants and private sector business and holidays, and the money goes on and on. If you want to live under communism with no private sector, go ahead. In the US, UK and Canada, we've so far managed to avoid both extremes. And in a sense, that's precisely why we're here. Let's look at the measures that we've experienced and things we've seen in the media. So how's it going for the private sector right now? And what about their non-government private sector worker taxpayers? Are they good? It's not just being polite. We are, after all, going to need them to pay for the government bailout of the economy. We're going to need to kickstart and support the private sector and non-government private sector worker taxpayers who've been devastated by lockdown. The sooner the government can tax the private sector and non-government private sector worker taxpayers, the sooner the government can give that money to the private sector and non-government private sector worker taxpayers to kickstart the economy, and we go back to normal. Anyone spot the flaw in the cunning plan? How is the government going to tax struggling, if not bankrupt, private sector corporations and non-government private sector worker taxpayers? They put us into lockdown. We're not earning. As someone pointed out, this indeed is a crisis uniquely targeted at ordinary people not working for the government. Has the government shut down the NHS, public sector institution? Are you insane? Fire the government-paid public sector worker taxpayer nurses saving us? Has the government fired the military to save money right now? Are you insane? Fire our boys and girls when the Chinese government started this and need to be punished? Has the government fired the police to save money right now when we need those brave lads on the streets to maintain law and order and quarantine? This saddened and sickened me. My old university congratulating her on her research on how to improve public adherence to quarantine measures. I couldn't be more horrified if they lauded her for her research in improving turnaround in free cleansing showers. And if the government built them, the sheeple would have walked into them and still might. No, the government has ring-fenced and protected its beneficiaries. How protected do you or your local businesses feel right now? And how much do you think they're earning to pay tax on? The government just lost its magic money fountain. In any normal year, the politicians on the left say, we'll spend so much money, you'll be happy you chose us, and buy your votes. On the right, the other politicians say, we'll spend a sensible amount of money, but yes, health and war, and buy your votes. The government pretends it's got sensible measures, but like any ordinary person, why bother being sensible when you can just borrow your way out of debt? Yes, I know it's simplistic. Do you think I don't know that? Do you think I have the leisure to educate 400 million people to degree levels in maths, economics, politics, and epidemiology? Just roll with it. Normal times look like this. These aren't normal times. Today it looks like this. These definitely aren't normal times. More accurately, it would look like this normally. Bills on the left, tax on the right, doesn't quite match the bills. Here's Uncle Lender. The government goes to Uncle Lender for yet more money. Look at the exquisite phrasing of the offer. It will temporarily lend. Shall we see how much governments have temporarily borrowed to buy your votes and go to war and do the rest? Borrowed on your behalf, or to buy your votes and implement their agendas at least, United States, $25,000 billion. United Kingdom, $1,786 billion. Canada, $631 billion. And they have the balls to moan about your overdraft. Using the central bank interest rates, that's United States, $750 billion in interest per annum. United Kingdom, $43 billion in interest per annum. And Canada, $34 billion in interest per annum. They pay of your money every year for two reasons. Some people want things for free, and some people have an agenda like war. If that upsets you because you want a free society, then you'd better keep paying attention, because it won't be free money that's the problem. There are people who make a lot of money out of you because you want politicians to make your life easier, and you don't want to take the trouble to stop them from going to war. You got yourself into this, and if you don't hurry, you won't be able to get yourself out of it. So what do we have right now that's different? First, the governments are aggressively pressing for the destruction of their income stream. Makes no sense, right? It will make perfect sense in a moment. Second, governments are aggressively pressing for emergency and critical health measures that the virus demands for all our safety. But wait, now seriously not the time for that kind of expenditure. We have no choice. This is about saving lives. And like a fairy godmother, Uncle Lender says, it will temporarily lend. And when the vaccines have to be paid for each year, will the government temporarily borrow to fund their vaccine program? And it's not just vaccines. Herr Gates wants 10 weeks of lockdown. The UK government says it's too early to lift the lockdown. Herr Gates wants chipping to track the virus. Free, no doubt. And the staff, they'll expect to be paid, which isn't really free, is it? Whatever the bills are for the virus measures, Uncle Lender will kindly step up and make the money available. Whatever the disaster to the economy and people's lives, Uncle Lender will kindly step up to lend temporarily to cover it. Whatever the final bill, thank heavens for Uncle Lender. And if the faceless little guy makes a killing in interest, hey, he bailed us out in a crisis. What crisis? Only one, Wittkowski, told us exactly what to do. Carry on as normal, put OAPs in homes and keep them separate. Important to keep children at school to spread the virus. 4 weeks and it's over. Herd immunity achieved. No good reason to flatten the curve. It prolongs the situation and delays herd immunity. And the government did exactly the opposite. The only place in the world to get a deaths estimate for the UK, Hubei, worst hit province in China, 3,085 deaths in 59.17 million people. UK estimate 3,085 times 66 divided by 59 equals 530,000. If you've followed my work, you know they implemented lockdown when the crisis was already over. The contagion would continue for a bit, but the level and magnitude was entirely predictable and not a risk. Every day they can stop you working normally is another day the faceless lender gets a payday loan. Every measure they can get you to accept will have to be paid for with a payday loan. Boris did not wake up saying, I think I'll scare 66 million people today. Imperial College did not lose it and think that 3,085 times 66 over 59.17 equals 530,000. Someone instructed them to say that. Someone who's anticipating a nice little earner from his payday loan scam. Look at his Muppets and puppets. Anyone pushing control, health measures and lockdown on you is doing the little man's bidding. Gates, the loyal brother. Trudeau, the obedient Muppet. Johnson, the betrayer. And Trump? Personally, I think the only reason America is free right now is because Trump is a self-centered a-hole who doesn't like to be told what to do. You decide. But decide fast and sweep clean. No apologies. No mistakes were made. For God's sake, wake up and do it right finally. 2,000 years of the perils of money lending. And not once have we decided that enough is enough. Hitler, Napoleon, they overplayed their hand in Russia. Russia is a fraction of Mother Earth, and they came so close and may still pull it off. Only you can save us now. What you do is up to you. The moment the Bank of England kindly offered to bail us out, it all fell into place. It's not theory, it's observation. It's happening. It's up to you if it continues to happen. Thank you for listening or watching. I'm Andrew Mather, a 60-year-old Brit, mathematician, financier, technologist, husband, biker, pilot, healer, whatever. A bunch of stuff. Take care. Feel free to get in touch, andrew@peerlessreads.com or andrew@amather.com. Either should get to me.